Hello and welcome to episode 14 of the Gorgie Boys podcast with myself, Graham Duffy, talking about all things Heart of Midlothian, league leaders Heart of Midlothian, but are we potential title champions? I'm not going to say yes yet, but I'm delighted to be joined by a very special guest tonight. On the build-up to Hearts against Celtic on Sunday, I had to get a Celtic fan on, but he's a good mate of mine. I've done numerous podcasts with him. It is Reegan Stevenson. Reegan, how are you, mate?
I'm doing well, Graham. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all, mate. I had to get a Celtic fan on to get your kind of side of things on the Celtic end ahead of this game on Sunday. But before we actually talk about that, we'll have a look back at the weekend that's just passed. Because obviously Hearts played Kilmarnock, Dundee played Celtic. We'll come to that shortly. But my own side, obviously, Hearts went to Kilmarnock, the Del Clasico on Saturday, that 5:45 kickoff. I mean, going into that game, I generally thought it was going to be a hard game. I think a lot of folk did. I predicted 2-1 to Hearts. I don't think many folk would have thought it would be as comfortable as that. A 3-0 win, that first half goal from Craig Halkett and a double from Cledo Braga in the second half. I don't know if you watched the game, Reegan, but your thoughts on Hearts, because I thought Hearts were, from maybe the first 50 minutes, I didn't think we started great, but after that, I thought we were very good.
To be honest with you, Graham, I only seen the highlights of the game because I was at Firhill on Saturday, as I've spoke to you about, but no, Graham, I've been really impressed with Hearts. I thought they played really well on Saturday, from what I've seen in the game, and I think that shows you as well. Clearly, to a notoriously difficult place in Rugby Park as well, because I think it's so difficult to play these matches. And I think if you look at the overall start of the season, people keep talking about talking about in terms of close to Aberdeen last year. I think it's totally different, Graham. I mean, you look at the teams that you guys have played. You played Aberdeen. You played obviously David Martindale's team. You played Dundee United. You played Falkirk. You beat Rangers. So I think it's been a very tough start. And I think you've got to say as well, Graham, with the thing of Derek going back to his own club, then it's got that added spice. And I thought the players dealt with it very well.
Yeah, that was it. That was all the talk before the game, was the added spice of McInnes going back, the abuse he was going to get. But to be honest, it wasn't quite as bad. It didn't come across like that on TV. But honestly, Hearts kept the same team, again, 4 games running. And of course, it's that thing of it ain't broke, don't fix it. We'd won 3 previous games. We'd kept 3 clean sheets. I still have no idea if there's German goalkeepers any good because he's barely been tested. But 4 clean sheets in a row now with the same team. I mean, there's a lot of positivity in the Hearts just now. And Kilmarnock are a good side. Like, not many teams have got Rugby Park and put 3 past them. Celtic obviously won that game late on with that penalty kick, but I thought Hearts were, I used the word on my own kind of TikTok page, professional. I thought Hearts were very professional.
Yeah, Graham, and that's what you need to do when you go to these games. It's not about always playing really well. It's about making sure you get the 3 points, and that's exactly what they've done. And I think it's the perfect test ahead of a big match on Sunday as well. And I'm sure Derek is so pleased to see that he's back forward doing really well. I know people spoke about it at the start of the season, but I think potentially the signing of the season could be Stuart Friendly as well. And Graham, I want to get your opinion because I've been saying this for a while. Surely he must be in the thoughts of Steve Clarke as well.
Well, I kind of think so should Craig Halkett be. They've both been fantastic. The clean sheets are keeping. They've got a really good partnership at the back. They're both very, very good defensively. But I've always said the thing with Craig Halkett, it's always been a fitness thing with Halkett. I've said previously, when Halkett's fit, I think he's our best centre-back. But I think Finley's been fantastic. And I would agree. I mean, I think Scotland could do worse. And I'm not just saying this as a Hearts fan. Scotland could do worse than have a back 2 of Finley and Halkett as centre-backs. I think they're both very impressive.
Because to be honest with you, I've not really been impressed with John Suter, to be honest with you. I think he's too lax days ago. I liked him when he played at Hearts, but I think that now potentially it could be the coaching that he's had under Russell Martin, but I've not been impressed by him this season so far. And I think Scotland could do far wrong than go to Craig Halkett and Stuart Finley as well.
I think other people that have been very impressive so far, Reegan, and obviously we'll talk about Hearts Celtic later, but I mean, you're not going to get every signing right. We all know that. I've seen it numerous times with Hearts. You'll have seen it with Celtic. You won't get every signing right. But when you get a couple of gems in terms of Clydo Braga and Alexandros Kizridas, again on Saturday, they were fantastic on Saturday again.
Yeah, they've been amazing, and I think that'll be a big bonus for Derek to try and keep those two players fit and firing as much as possible. Because if you can keep their players fit and firing, then I think they'll go a long way to a big successful season for Hearts. Because I think what they do is they isolate the threatened players in terms of 1v1. They're scared to go near them. They're scared to engage.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've always liked wide players that when they get the ball, their main thoughts to take people on. Kizridas does that. But the thing about him as well is he tends to make the right decision. He knows when to pass. He knows when to shoot. Too many wingers these days just make the wrong decision. Too many times they actually turn back. But Kizridas is very, very aggressive in the way he presses. And I just think they've been so good. But as well, obviously, people that don't already know, that if I haven't seen Reegan before, Reegan does a lot of Scottish football podcasts, so I've done a lot of podcasts with him. Independence Live, we did The Locker Room. Reegan is also on the Scottish Football Zone, so I can talk about Hearts and that with Reegan because he knows what he's talking about. But the one thing I would say as well, I've been very impressed with Ocean McEntee. I think when he first came in, he was a midfielder, but he's having to play right back because Borchgrevink has been injured. But again, I think in terms of underrated players, I think he's been really good so far. He's flying under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, he's been. I mean, I think he's been very good, and he's been very good in terms of. I don't know if you agree, Graham, but I think Jamestown analytics. I think they get a lot of criticism from clubs in Scotland and maybe potential fans that are a little bit jealous. But I think Jamestown analytics are very serious at what they do. You've seen it with Brighton, you've seen it with San Jawan and Brighton and Belgium. Sorry, and I think in terms of what they're actually trying to do is they've got a very good structure there.
100%. I mean, the Jamestown stuff is working very well. As I say, maybe won't get everything right, but again, we've seen fleeting moments of our new record signing a Jew, playing as Livingston, but then got injured. He's still to come back. You've still got guys like Hoff to come back as well, Borchgrevink to come back. I keep on saying that Hearts squad is very strong for players that aren't available. It's a very strong squad, but to go to Rugby Park and win 3-0, and I think once the third goal goes in after about 50-some minutes, I think it was 61 minutes.
Yep.
The game was done. It was just done after that.
Yeah, I mean, Graham, I want to get your opinion because I've always been really impressed with Brenny Beningame.
Benny is brilliant.
See if he can just stay fit. I think he could be the best players in Scotland, honestly.
The one thing about Benny, and it's a running joke amongst Hearts fans, he will not shoot. He's the only midfielder that I ever see that just will not shoot. He gets near the box and he gets a nosebleed. But honestly, on the ball, again, we'll talk about it shortly about Celtic and that, but on the ball, he very, very rarely gives the ball away. He's a player that if he's got 2 or 3 players round him, he won't lose it. He's a very, very good footballer, very composed, and you're right. Again, if we can keep him fit, a bit like Halkett, he's so important to us, but he just will not shoot.
No, and obviously I've been so impressed with Mullen as well. Is it Jack Mill?
Harry Mill.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been so impressed with a lot of the players that you brought in, Graham, and obviously Derek McCann spoke about it on Open Goal as well when he spoke about Shineland as well. I mean, obviously this time last year, they're probably thinking, right, Shineland's going to go to Rangers. The press were bringing it up. They were banging it on, saying Rangers need to get Shineland in to win the title. But, I mean, he's now turned into a very important player again.
I don't listen to a lot of Open Goal stuff, but I listened to that, obviously, because McInnes was on it. I thought McInnes was very good. To be fair, I thought Cy Ferry was decent, asked some good questions. But yeah, he was talking about Lawrence Shankland and how he kept dropping deep a lot last season. And McInnes spoke about the fact they needed pace around him, which he's got now. So he's not having to do it with himself. And I've said this before as well, that we've relied on Lawrence Shankland far too long for the last few seasons. If Lawrence Shankland this season isn't quite on form, it doesn't matter because you've got other players that are stepping up. You've got Braga, you've got Kizridis, you've got centre-backs scoring goals. So it's not as big an issue as it has been. But again, also in the open goal interview, he talked about Cammy Devlin and he said that Cammy Devlin's a better player than he thought he was. I think Devlin this season has gone up a level. He's been fantastic so far.
Yeah, and I think that's I think that's where I'm going to praise Derek. I think in terms of he's got a better manager now. No disrespect to obviously the managers before him, but I just feel like maybe a player like Devlin maybe needed the right person to show him what type of player he can actually be.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was great. Actually, there was a moment in the second half I think it was about 8-9 minutes to go where Devlin got given the captaincy for the first time, and you could see he was loving it. He's such an infectious character. Like, he never stops running. Yes, he'll get booked, but that's just Cammy Devlin for you. You need to get like that in your team because he just never stops.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be so important for the rest of the season as well. And obviously, I've seen that he got his call up for the Australian national team recently as well. So obviously he's been noticed.
Yeah, unfortunately, didn't play any of those games, but he's come back very good for Hearts. But that win on Saturday did take Hearts 5 points clear at the top, which I thought wasn't going to last because on Sunday it was Dundee against Celtic, and I think like most folk, I assumed Celtic would take about 4 or 5 goals off Dundee because I don't really think Pressel's a great manager. But it did finish Dundee 2, Celtic 0. Those 2 first half goals from Clark Robertson and an own goal from Carter Vickers. I mean, Reegan, obviously, all the credit went to Dundee, a great performance, but Celtic looked miles off it. They had a lot of the ball, understandably so, because they're going to have a lot of the ball, but they just created so little. There was no cutting edge at all.
So frustrating to watch, Graham. So frustrating. But fair play to Dundee. I thought Dundee played amazing. I thought they defended really well and played really well. But I just felt like Celtic they could have been playing the next Wednesday, Graham, and still not scored. And I think that just shows you that Celtic team are really lacking in attacking players. Brendan Rodgers mentioned it in the summer transfer window, but I think now is the stark reality, Graham, that I think Brendan Rodgers is spot on. I mean, the attacking players Celtic have got at the moment is pretty bad. I mean, a player like Johnny Kenny, he was spoken about going to a St Mirren or a Motherwell, but now Johnny Kenny's been forced to be Celtic's backup striker. And okay, people can say, well, they've got Dyson Maeda, but I think, Graham, that I don't think Dyson Maeda wants to be there personally. I think he already said that he packed his bags, he packed his locker and stuff like that. So I think in terms of Celtic, I think it was a strange performance, but I don't think it was a surprising performance because even if you look back to the previous matches, like the St Mirren match on the first day of the Scottish Premier League season, I mean Celtic were pretty poor that day. They got very lucky in the last minute, and then you look at the matches against Rangers. That Rangers Celtic game was one of the worst matches I've ever had to watch ever, Graham.
Well, Celtic have played 14 games for all competitions in terms of league and cup, and they failed to score in 6 of those games. That's very unlike Celtic.
Yeah, it's a staggering stat, Graham. It's staggering because, especially a Brendan Rodgers Celtic, because you think of them squashbuckling, you think of them scoring goals everywhere, but the Celtic have not got the players that they once had, like a Paddy Roberts, Scott Sinclair, James Forrest. James Forrest is now 34, Graham, and we'll get onto the team on Sunday, but I would actually play James Forrest on Sunday because I just feel like if you look at I think Maeda will still be injured, so I think you're looking at potentially Yang or you're looking at Balaklisha. To be honest with you, Graham, I've not been impressed with the two of them so far. So, me personally, I would go with the two white guys in terms of James Forrest and Taneki, and then I would go with Iheanacho up top.
I was actually going to mention a couple of players you said there because it was very noticeable watching the game on Sunday that most of the South Celtic came down their left with Chunetsky and and Tierney. There was very little coming down the right with Yang and Ralston.
Yeah, I mean, see Ralston, he sort of reminds me of a Stephen O'Donnell sort of player, Graham. He does the job very well. Stephen O'Donnell used to do for Scotland, but I think you need that better quality. I think if it was me in the Celtic manager position and Johnson wasn't fit on Sunday, I would be playing Donovan because I've been impressed with Donovan so far. Because I just think Tony Ralston is lacking in confidence and also he's lacking in quality. And I think, especially with those, especially with the sort of forward players that the Hearts have got playing for them at the moment, Graham.
Well, like, even if you look at the two goals that Celtic lose, I mean, the first goal from a set piece, it's a great header from Clark Robertson, but he's unmarked. And then the second goal is a breakaway. Don't get me wrong, Congreve does very well. It's a difficult opportunity. Obviously, there's not a lot Carter Vickers can do about it, but the two goals Celtic lose are very, very cheap goals to give away, which again is very unlike Celtic.
Yeah, it's very unlike Celtic, Graham, but to be honest with you, Graham, it's not very unlike Celtic that season because you look back at the Motherwell game, and that's where the smell test can come. And the sniff test, as they call it, football these days, Graham. And I think if you look at that Motherwell game, Celtic were lucky to get away with a point, never mind three. I mean, that as soon as that Motherwell second goal goes in, I'm thinking Motherwell are going to win by 3 or 4 goals here because Motherwell were playing absolutely fantastic. And then obviously they were playing it from the back, and they Celtic then they got it back to 2-2, and then Maeda scored in the last minute. But I think if you look at Celtic overall this season, I think you've got to say it's very below par.
What did you think of the Celtic fans chucking the stuff on the park after about 4 minutes on Sunday?
I don't think it helped anything. I think you can see the frustration from Schmeichel. I think he was a little bit peeved off. I would say you could clearly see his frustration visibly on his face. But I'm thinking that I don't think it helps the squad. I'm all for protesting, Graham, in terms of trying to do things for the club. But see if you're going to put things on the pitch, I don't think it helps the club. Okay, I think it's okay to protest maybe outside Celtic Park or things like that, but not actually throw objects on the pitch. And okay, the Celtic fans can say, okay, that made a statement to the board because people like us are talking about it. Yes, okay, that's great. But then it also plays the effect onto the players because you then go into a match on Thursday where if Celtic throw things on the pitch on Thursday, they will be fined by UEFA. Then you look at in terms of Sunday, the Celtic players are probably thinking, right, are the fans going to protest again? And that's not great as well because they want to get on with the game and they want to get fired up. And to be spending about 4 or 5 minutes trying to take balls off a pitch, I don't think it's great for the mentality. And okay, people can say, well, I'm potentially overreacting here, but I just don't think it's great for the players.
What's your thoughts on other stuff at Celtic just now, like the board and Brendan Rodgers and stuff, and obviously the comments that Brendan Rodgers made after the game on Sunday? I mean, where do you sit with all this? Are you angry at the board as a lot of other Celtic fans seem to be? Are you angry at Brendan Rodgers? Where do you sit with all this?
I'm angry at both of them. Two of them are not doing their job properly. Because Brendan Rodgers is is capable of managing the squad that he's got at his disposal, Graham. And you also look at the board; they've got the accountability to go right. Well, we've not scored in 6 matches. You spoke about there, Graham. Well, that's the board's fault because the board have not brought in the quality for Brendan Rodgers and the coaching staff to work. But then also I'm looking at it, I'm going, Brendan Rodgers has been left to go in terms of Brendan Rodgers has got about 6 months left of his contract. So I don't think it's great for the overall squad as well. I don't think it's great for the overall club either. Because I think Brendan Rodgers wants to be there. But to be honest with you, Graham, I think there's certain members on the board that would be quite happy to see the back of Brendan. So I think it's a difficult place to be. And I think Brendan Rodgers is obviously still a little bit hurt by the Sun newspaper talking about that there's someone in the club that knows that wants Brendan not to be there and stuff like that. So I just think all this stuff needs to be sorted. The board and the fans need to be united, and I think Celtic is a club that can be very successful, but when everything's not aligned, then it can be a very difficult club to be at.
Well, before you take on Hearts, which will come in a minute, you do have that European game tomorrow. I know you're going to the game. Sturm Graz, the Austrian team, currently sit top of the league. They're 3 points clear of Salzburg. They've currently scored 18 goals in their league. How are you feeling about tomorrow? Confident, or are you still thinking this is a potential banana skin here?
Have you ever watched a team game where you think, will it potentially when they lose the first goal, right, that's the match finished? That's the way you feel with Celtic at the moment, in terms of when someone scores, you think, right, that's us done. Whereas in the past, you think, right, well, St Johnstone or Bayern Munich have scored. Obviously, we've still got a chance to score. But I just think it's so hard to see where Celtic are going to score from. I mean, you go through the squad and you go, Celtic are pinning their hopes on a free transfer. Nacho. Hopefully, he can be able to step up, Graham. But I think it's very difficult to see where the goals are in this Celtic squad.
Yeah, it's a big game tomorrow. I think it'll be tough, but I don't know why. I just have a feeling that Celtic might just sneak this. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm hoping that they're still angry after the game on Sunday, that they won't take it out on Hearts. They'll take it out to Sturm Graz instead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting, Graham, because I think it'll be interesting to see what the crowd is like. It'll be interesting to see about the attendance. And it'll be interesting to see if we get a reaction from the players after the comment that Brendan Rodgers made on Sunday as well about Celtic players being a Honda Civic and not a Ferrari.
It's such a weird comment to make.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, Graham, I actually see where he's coming from in terms of you as a football club knew this time last year. I mean, Graham, for a bit of context, this time last year, Celtic played Bayern Munich at Celtic Park, right? And every Celtic fan I knew, they were talking about, right, well, here is something to build on. And straight 12 months later, Celtic are struggling to get points in the Europa League. So it's two polar opposites.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago you played Bayern Munich and away from home as well and ran them very close and should have won the game.
Yeah, and I seen a stat the other day that Celtic have lost as many games in 2025 than they did in 2024, all in.
That's a crazy stat. Well, a game I'm hoping you lose. It's Sunday. That's what I brought you on, because it is league leaders Hearts, 5 points clear against Celtic. A chance for Hearts to go 8 points clear if we win this game. I mean, It's a massive game for both teams, Reegan. I've seen a few people saying it's a must-win game for Hearts. I disagree, because even if we get beat, we're still 2 points clear. A draw keeps us 5 points clear. I personally think all the pressure's on Celtic here.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. Because Celtic are under so much pressure. You know, Graham, I've not had this much. I've not had this much excitement for a Scottish football game in a long time. I'm looking forward to it in a good way, but I'm also looking forward to it in a bad way as well. Because I think that if Celtic lose on Sunday, everything can just spiral out. I really do, Graham. And I think if I'm in your position right now, I'm going, right, Celtic are in turmoil, Rangers are in turmoil, and we have got a big backer in Tony Bloom. We've got a very good manager in Derek McInnes, and we've got a very good squad.
I saw Alex and Ethan, who obviously do a lot of the Scottish Football Zone stuff as well, and they've got a podcast as well, The Dugout, which is on YouTube. They've got a TikTok as well. And I noticed they did one yesterday on TikTok, and the headline that they put on TikTok was, "Are Hearts title favourites?" Personally, no, we're not. Because if you go back to 2011-2012 season, since then, Celtic have won 13 league titles. The only anomaly is Rangers in 2020-21. Celtic are still favourites for me. But, again, I keep on saying it. I don't want to get too hyped up, but I'm not going to blame any Hearts fan that does. And the media are talking about Hearts, which is great. But I'm still looking at thinking, if we can finish second, I think that's a good season for us. Given the fact that we were bottom six last season.
I think it is, Graham, but to be honest with you, I don't think you'll have a better chance, because I've not seen Celtic at this low level in a long time. And you've got to say that in January and in the summer, there's got to be some reinforcing from the board. And if you look at Rangers, they've got a new manager in, Danny Rowe, but they're still so many points behind Hearts. So I think you've got to start dreaming, Graham.
I don't want to dream too much though, because it'll just end in tears. I know it will be. But if I look at the league table, so we've both played 8 games. Looking at the fact that we've scored 19 and conceded 6, Celtic have scored 11 and conceded 5, and we have won 7, drawn 1, lost none. Celtic have won 5, drawn 2, and lost 1. So Hearts go into this in very good form. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think any Hearts fan, in fact, I know that no Hearts fan thought that at this point this season, after 8 games, we'd be top 5 points clear. Especially when I just mentioned there that last season we were bottom of the league at this point. It is an incredible turnaround. You talk about Celtic there, but it's been an incredible turnaround. And yes, a lot of that is a recruitment. A lot of that is the fact that Tony Bloom's done well. But the biggest factor for me is Derek McInnes. What a job he's doing.
Yeah, and I think I've said this for the last 4 years, Graham, but I see him being the natural successor to Steve Clarke.
So do I.
I do. I think Steve. I'm going to put my positive hat on here. I'm going to say that Steve Clarke takes us to to America, and I'm going to say after that, Derek then goes into the job.
I would not be surprised. This is the thing, like, for the last few weeks, it's been about, Derek McInnes might go to Rangers. I knew that was going to happen. I've always said that I think if Derek McInnes gets another job in Scotland, it will be the national job.
Yeah, I think he's perfectly made for it, because he's pragmatic, but he's also believes in his squad ability, and I think with the players that he would have at his disposal, I think he'd be a very good, a very, very good Scotland manager.
I mean, in terms of obviously Hearts on Sunday, 12 o'clock kickoff, live on Sky, it's sold out, which is fantastic. I am not expecting Hearts to make any changes. I'm expecting us to keep the same team for the 5th game in a row. And I think, again, I'm looking at that Celtic team. I don't know what Celtic are going to do, but if we can get the likes of Kizridas on the ball against whoever Celtic play at fullback, I think Kizridas could have a field day.
Yeah, I can see where you come from, and it just gives me nightmares thinking about it, Graham. because I think he started really well, and that goal he scored against Falkirk as well was a cracker. So, from your point of view, I can see why you're so positive, but from a Celtic point of view, I think I think you're bang on the head there, Graham, in terms of you don't actually know what the Celtic team is going to show up.
Thing is, whenever I talk about Celtic, and I've done it on like the podcast with yourself and all that kind of stuff, I always think that if you stop Callum McGregor, you stop Celtic. I don't think Callum McGregor's been great so far this season.
No, he was very bad against Motherwell. And I've seen it for myself. He just kept moving the ball too slow and kept like slowing the game down and stuff like that. I don't think he's been himself, but I think potentially Sunday could be the game where Celtic as a club really kind of revitalise this start to the season, because there needs to be a turning point. Because if not, then I'm sorry, but Hearts are going to go into the sunset if Celtic continue to do the way they're doing.
I mean, obviously you're a Celtic fan, but you're a Scottish football fan as well. Do you want a title challenge for Hearts this season?
You know, Graham, I've been saying this for years. I think these things are great for Scottish football because it's got people like me and you talking. It's got things like this going, and I think it is good. You know, and people always talk about, oh, it's great for Scottish football, but then when it happens, we all go, oh, but is it going to last? Is it going to do this and that? I mean, I hope that we do get it, and I hope we do get it for the long haul, because Tony Bloom is a great thing for Scottish football, because he's come in and he's shown ambition, and he came out at the start of the season and he said that he wants Hearts to challenge. And a lot of people were kind of scoffing at the idea, Graham, but I think he's shown, and I'm sure that if you look at the Highbuys as well, they've got an owner from Bournemouth, so maybe like maybe top football clubs owners from down south are thinking, right, Scotland is the place to be. If you can potentially put money into these clubs, that can make Scottish football more great for people to watch, because we're always talking down the game, but then as soon as something happens, we go, oh, but is it going to last as long? I just think we need, football fans need to enjoy the moments that we're in at the moment, and I think being a title race between Celtic, Rangers, and Hearts would be some viewing.
It's funny because just immediately after the Hearts game on Saturday against Kilmarnock, probably about 10 seconds after it finished, Charlie Mulgrew said, enjoy it because it won't last. And I thought, okay, I get you're an ex-Celtic player, but seriously, surely you want a challenge. Surely you want something a bit different. You're getting it now. And like you said there, they're just immediately going, nah, it's not going to happen. And it might not, but I just think kind of comments like that don't really help.
No, you've got to stick in the moment, because, and I hear people that say, well, it's not going to last the full season. But well, I think we've got to enjoy it. We've got to enjoy these moments and stop putting things down, because I think in terms of the challenge that Hearts have done so far, it's been very good. And I think if you look at even to English football and places like that, I mean, even you look at players like Vargas, potentially last year, was talking on his national team and said Scottish football is not a very good standard. And I think if you've got 3 teams up there challenging, then it can only be good for the game. To go, right, Scottish football is very competitive. And you know what I hate as well, Graham? I hate when people say, oh, but Hearts are only benefiting because Celtic and Rangers are so bad. But also Hearts need to go and win the games. You know, so it's okay saying, and I don't know if you agree, Graham, but I think that you're caught. See, even your teams like St Mirren, Motherwell, Falkirk. Oh, I think all of these clubs are very progressive. They're very good to watch, and they've got players in there that can hurt you. And I think a lot of the times over the past 5 to 10 years, I don't know if there's a lot of times you can really say that, but I think now, see when you go to St Mirren or you go to Teester Road or you go to Motherwell, you know now you're going to be in for a game, and that can only be good for the game.
All you've got to do is look at Leicester City in the Premiership. They won the title, nobody expected them to. Now, yes, you could look at it and say teams like Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United, Man City were off it. But like you said there about Hearts, you still got to win the games. Leicester did that and won the title. I'm not going to say that Hearts are going to do that, but I think you're right. And I've kind of said this as well, that while it might not last, why not enjoy it? Like, if you're a football fan, as a Hearts fan, we don't get a lot of joy. You know, as I said, look at last season. We're bottom of the league. We couldn't win a game to save ourselves. We were finished bottom 6. Now we're sitting top. And I think, like most Hearts fans, we're just enjoying it. I've seen very few Hearts fans say we're going to win the league, but we're just enjoying what we are at the moment. And again, in all competitions so far this season, and I know that 4 of them were League Cup games, we've scored 36 goals. Celtic have scored 20 in all competitions. We're the top scorers. And I keep on saying it, we've got such a threat now. Lawrence Shanklin's got 7 of those goals. We're such a threat. And honestly, Sunday, I think, could be really intriguing. But I just hope the Hearts come out quickly, press Celtic, get after them, don't let them settle, like Dundee kind of tried to do. And if you mentioned there as well at the first goal, if Hearts get the first goal, it could be interesting.
Graham, I get the feeling that Sunday could be psychologically so important, because I take it back to Aberdeen last year, right? Aberdeen were going into that Celtic semi-final match. People were saying, yeah, Aberdeen are doing well at the moment. Are they able to go and beat Celtic? And then Celtic go and beat them 6-0. Right? But I just think that if Hearts do win or they do draw on Sunday, psychologically that could be massive. And that's why I say I just don't think Celtic can afford anything but to win this game. Because psychologically for Hearts, it's so big. Because if Hearts go and win the game, and then Celtic are playing Rangers next week, if Hearts go and beat Dundee at home, which you'd expect them to do, then they got 11 points clear. And I can't remember who Hearts play the following week.
We've actually got, after we play you, we've got St Mirren in midweek next week. Then we've got Dundee at home.
Yes, so Celtic don't play that. So Celtic don't play that weekend. So potentially you could be looking at a gap that could be between 11 and 14 points. And okay, you can say it's early, but everybody said the same thing during COVID. They went, "Oh, Celtic's got 4 games in hand, so if they win the 4 games, then this could happen and this could happen and whatever." Me personally, I think it's so early, but I think the more you tick off the matches, the better chance you've got. And I think this could be a big match in terms of the 2 clubs. Because if you think about it, Graham, if Celtic don't win on Sunday, the media are going to come down like a ton of bricks on Brendan Rodgers.
Well, including this game on Sunday, Hearts' next 5 games are Celtic at home, St Mirren away, Dundee at home, Dundee United at home, and Aberdeen away. Celtic's next 5 games, and I know they've got a bit of a wait for some of these games. Hearts away, obviously. Falkirk at home, Kilmarnock at home. Then they've got 2 difficult away games, away to St Mirren and away to Hibs. That's Celtic's next 5 games.
And do you know that something else, Graham? Brendan Rodgers never wins away to Hibs. He never does well there. The only time he's won was the last 2 years, when Adam Ida got a last-minute penalty.
I remember that.
And also when it was David Gray's second game as Hibs manager, and David Gray started off very poorly. But if you look at every other season that Brendan Rodgers was in Scotland, he got beat by a Neil Lennon team that was playing at that time. So I think that's going to be a very difficult match. And I think, like you said about St Mirren, I'm sure Hearts play first on that day as well. I'm sure, Graham.
Yeah, I think we do, yeah.
because Celtic play at 8 p.m. at night time. So potentially you could be looking there at a 14-point.
Did I get me excited, mate? Stop it.
Potentially you could be looking at a 14-point deficit before Celtic even take the pitch. And
it's funny because I keep hearing you mentioned it there about Aberdeen, and I have heard similarities from obviously Aberdeen last season, but there are slight differences. At this point last season, after 8 games, Aberdeen were second. They were never 5 points clear at any point last season. We're 5 points clear just now. So there are differences. And also as well, I do believe that because we are going to get beat, and I'm not daft enough to think we're going to go beat, and I would love to. But the thing is, I don't think that if Hearts get beat, we're going to run like Aberdeen did last season. I think if we lose a couple of games, we'll pick that back up again, unlike Aberdeen last season, because I think our squad this season is better than Aberdeen's was last season.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, because you look at the Hearts bench, you look at the squad that they built up, and you look at the players that you said, the player that you signed for record money, and he's still not played yet. Obviously, apart from that game against David Martindale's team at the start of the season, but I think in terms of the actual overall picture, I think that this match on Sunday is going to have a big impact, because psychologically it's big for both clubs.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because today is 20 years to the day that George Burley was sacked as Hearts manager. We were in exactly the same position then. We were top of the league. We were flying high, unbeaten. Very, very similar to this season. The only difference is we don't have Romanov this season to sack McInnes.
Yeah, Graham, and I want to take you to what Tony Bloom's done, and I get Celtic fans will say, well, Celtic will spend money in January, but so will Tony Bloom. See if Hearts are even a glimmer of hope, say 5 points clear in January, Tony Bloom will spend a lot of money. He will, because he'll see an opportunity there.
I think there was something came out yesterday. He's not allowed to do that. I can't remember what it was, but I don't think he's allowed to do that. But I think just in terms of Sunday, I think a lot of Hearts fans are going out with a lot of confidence, understandably so. I do think we've got a very good opportunity, but you mentioned it there. You don't know what Celtic team is going to turn up, because Celtic at some point you kind of think are going to click. Now, hopefully it's not Sunday, but it is a massive game for both teams. You're right. If we win and go 8 points clear, psychologically it's massive. If we draw, we're still 5 points clear. If we lose, we're still top by 2 points. So it's a big, big game, this. I mean, what are you expecting? I know you've got the game tomorrow. What are you expecting from Celtic on Sunday?
I'm expecting an incredibly fired up both sets of players. But I'm expecting Celtic to rise to the occasion, because that's what Brendan Rodgers teams tend to do. And in big matches, you look at Brendan Rodgers against Rangers. Brendan Rodgers didn't lose a match against Rangers for a very long time. And then obviously he lost against Barry Ferguson in terms of in 2020, 2024, in 2025 that game, I think. But I think in terms of I think that Brendan Rodgers needs another statement win as Celtic manager, and I think potentially this could be it on Sunday. But well, like you said, I just don't know what type of Celtic team is going to turn up. And to be honest with you, Graham, that's not a very good sign for a Celtic squad that you don't know. You actually don't know what to expect.
This is probably one of the very few times that I think a Hearts fan base has gone into a game against Celtic confident. Because most times you're expecting Celtic come to Tynecastle, do what they normally do, beat us quite comfortably. This time it's different. There's a lot of Hearts fans going into this full of confidence. I've listened to Derek McInnes the last couple of days. He's confident. The players are confident. Very rarely have I ever seen a Hearts team go into a game of Celtic with this much confidence.
Yeah, and obviously, Graham, you'll remember it. But Brendan Rodgers has not got happy, a very happy memory at Tynecastle as well, because you look back at that 4-0 victory that ended Celtic's unbeaten run. So he's got that in the back of his mind as well, and think, right, we need to be up for this. And I
And
think,
this squad is far better than that team was. Put it that way.
yep, and I think it's I think that Sunday's match, the way I would phrase it, Graham, is that that's a match where Brendan Rodgers is a manager. That I think this is why he's getting paid £2 million a year, because in these big matches he tends to show up.
If, I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but if Hearts do go 8 points clear, what do you think that does for Hearts?
For Hearts, it puts the confidence at an all-time high. I think they'll be absolutely buzzing. I think it'll be hard to speak to you for the next 2 weeks, Graham. I think I'll be avoiding you on the WhatsApp. But I think the general feeling around the club will be very good.
I mean, obviously, I'm looking at probably Celtic and thinking Chunetsky's probably your best outlet just now. Iheanacho, possibly. But I look at that Hearts team, and honestly, you mentioned the bench there. We've got so many options. Honestly, our starting 11 is very strong, but you look at the bench and go, wow, we've got options to come off there if we're struggling. And I do think that Ajiu will be on the bench on Sunday.
Yeah, and that's another potential headache for Celtic. Graham, and I think it shows you the quality the Hearts are bringing in, because if you look at the two white players for Hearts at the moment, Braga and Kairanidis, I think if you would say to me right now, would I rather have Batalakwisha and Taneki or the two guys at Tynecastle, I think I'd got to say I would take those two players, because I don't think Batalakwisha so far has really set the hell on fire. He was chasing shadows in the match against Rangers, and he's not really done too much either. And I'm interested about Taneki, because I think Taneki reminds me of a sort of Jota figure, the way he takes the ball and the way he strikes. But I think, Graham, I don't know if you agree, but I think he's too predictable.
Yeah, I noticed that on Sunday, actually. He was doing the same move all the time.
Because I was watching him on Sunday, and almost, I was almost thinking to myself, like, surely these Dundee players are thinking, I'm going to have the easiest day possible, because every time that this player's running at me is doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. I mean, see, the thing I like about a lot of these new Hearts signings like Braga and Kidridis, they play with no fear. They went to Ibrox, played with no fear. Ember Darby played with no fear. Doesn't matter who they come up against, they just have no fear. And I like that, because I think too often I've seen too many Hearts side, like going to Ibrox, for example, and the beat before they get on the park, because they just think it's Rangers, we can't win this. That's gone. And now I think it might be the same on Sunday, whereas players will go on the park and think, it's Celtic, it's fine. There's such a confidence and swagger about this team, which is great, because it's been a long time since I've seen that.
Yeah, that can only be good for the squad. And like you say, if you were to get a result on Sunday, that puts the self belief of the players straight away, because you think to yourself, right, well, we've dealt with Celtic, we've dealt with Rangers, and now all we need to do is take care of the rest of the games. I know it's easier said than done, but yeah, I'm actually embracing the challenge, and I think that a lot of Celtic fans should, because I think for a lot of these years it's been so easy, and possibly, I'm not saying all Celtic fans, but I'm saying possibly they might have been taking it for granted, and that's probably that might also come back to, Graham, where the Celtic board have been at. Maybe the Celtic board just took it for granted, or Rangers are not that great at the moment, so we're not going to need to spend too much money. But then you get Tony Bloom there going, okay, I see an opportunity here.
I mean, I think he might be at the game on Sunday, actually. I mean, what an atmosphere it's going to be on Sunday. I think there's, like I said, it's a sellout, I think. I think Celtic have got 600 fans, I think. But what an atmosphere that's going to be on Sunday. It could be very, very good.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great, Graham. I'm looking forward to watching it. I'll probably be behind the couch for most of the game, but it'll be good to see it.
Have you got a prediction for Sunday?
Oh, the dreaded prediction. I'm going to say 3-1 to Celtic. I don't know how we're going to score 3 goals, but I think it'll be 3-1.
I mean, I'm going to go for Hearts to win. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to say Hearts 2, Celtic 1, but I think it'll be close and it'll be tight. I've seen a lot of Hearts fans saying this could be comfortable. I would love it to be, but I don't think it will be. But 3 points would be absolutely huge. Absolutely massive for Hearts.
Yeah, I think it would be, and I think it would also be massive for Celtic as well, because Brendan Rodgers, the board, are all under a lot of pressure. But if Celtic could win this game, then it could just settle everyone down and put a bit of perspective on things.
Well, we've done about 50 minutes, and I just want to say thank you very much to my good friend Reegan for joining me. Reegan, it is much appreciated, mate. I really appreciate you coming on.
Not a problem, Graham. Thank you for having me on, and people, please make sure you check out the Scottish Football Zone, and also check out me on Twitter as well. Aye.
Absolutely. Football Zone is a very, very good show. I've watched it. I mean, I watch it all the time anyway. I've been on a few times as well, which is great as well. But anyway, if you're going to the game on Sunday, enjoy it. It should be an absolutely cracking atmosphere. Thank you again to Reegan, and I shall see you on the next podcast.